left side there is a shipper. So keep practicing shipper. So
Okay.
shipper, I sign the BL. Let me show you the flow chart. So I will sign the BL.
Okay.
And once I've signed the BL, I give it to the this guy, the shipper, and then he presents it to the bank.
So how will he presents? I mean, it's through electronic mode.
Through the banking system.
Got it, sir.
So through the and that's the mode.
It need not be physical.
It has to be physical. I mean, that's why if you, I'm just sharing now.
Okay,
sir. This is the most important part which happens physically, especially in commodity trade.
Okay, sir.
So if you see this part, I have issued the BL step number 4.
Right.
And then step number 5, the shipper presents to the bank, because unless he presents, he can't get his money.
Right.
So it happens physically. That's why 3 originals are issued.
Okay.
To ensure that in case one is lost, then the other 2. So they are mailed to the bank in maybe 3 different DHL packets, I would say.
Okay.
But in container trade, Kalpana, because imagine when I was sailing on a 15,000 container ship, there could be 45,000 bills of lading. So that is all transferred, you see, and in container trade, you'll never see all containers are discharged in one port. They are partly discharged, partly loaded.
Right.
So then you may still have 1,000 bills of lading, and those are then transferred electronically. Although when you go for delivery of your cargo, you will present it maybe an electronic copy or a physical copy. But their bill of lading may not be of that importance. But commodity trade, like you see now, what's happening globally with oil, because it gives a flexibility. So the only authentic document you're holding is the bill of lading. So that is why it has to be original. And when it comes to the buyer's end, because the buyer has to clear from the bank to get this document. So when it comes to the buyer's end, he will present me. So what I signed at step number 4, I received at step number 9.
Right.
So that is how the whole process works.
Okay. And so once I have presented, the bill of lading originally is in the hands of the buyer, the rest of the 2 becomes null and void, right?
Yeah, which first come, first served.
Okay, sir.
So the other 2 doesn't matter. You give me 1 BL, I will give you the car. That's it. So that's the way. And it has also happened that I'm carrying 2 different ship parcels. Because they are separate shipments of 2 different buyers. Then they have to separately present. They are independent of each other.
Yes, got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever people are ready, we will start. So anything, Amrit, happening in the industry which you came across, any challenges? Your end?
Well, no challenges for the moment, but as we are in the process of finalizing India and EU FTA, so a lot of interest is increasing, basically, particularly from European companies. So that interest has increased a lot. But the real challenge would be to see, how much of that interest would actually materialize in, concretize in real terms, basically.
Correct.
But that we will come to know only maybe in a year or 2.
Yeah. Because trade has, whatever are agreements, present agreement, they are going on. And yesterday I was reading that he has put 10% tariffs on certain countries, which includes India for labor laws and means what is that you're using cheap labor. So this keeps on happening, and yeah, so that will be a challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I have noticed, yesterday also I was watching a video which was shared by other faculty who is taking international marketing management.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it was about the Chinese companies, how they have installed and how they've invested, set up industries in Mexico to cater to American market.
Correct.
So the main idea of that video was that international trade is like a water. Whatever you do, it would find some way or the other to reach the downstream.
Yes. I
So
think
even
you must have seen the same TED talk which I have seen, which says water has its own ways and water
Yes.
can adjust. You know. So
Yes,
that's
yes, yes.
Yeah, you're right. So the point here is that you cannot stop that. Like China has developed a port in Peru.
Yes,
On the
yes, exactly.
So the idea is they want to do trade, and in between America was not happy, so America cancelled contracts of this, or they pressurized Panama to cancel contracts of a very big port management company called Hutchison, because they said there is a Chinese interest, and so there is a big hue and cry there. But yes, China has that money and ability. Like if you see the port expansion they have done in last few years, it's equivalent to our defense budget. $80 billion they have spent, you know.
Very true, very true.
So that will keep going. Yeah.
I personally simply multiply, I mean, India capacity into 10 to have the Chinese capacity in any stream. It could be like, I mean, it could be port, it could be like, I mean, defense, it could be anything.
Yeah. So that's why if you go to Harvard Trade Atlas, you see that there are three blocks. It's China, US, and Europe. And China is about $3,000 billion export. And US is about $1,800 billion. And EU is about $2,000 billion. So these are the three main ones. And the rest will have to adjust with them. But I mean, I don't agree with a lot of things China does, but as far as the development in trade, they have done it uniformly. So that's why when the tariffs came, Trump couldn't do much with China because they stopped buying soya beans from him. So you can't. So if Australian said something, they'll say, okay, I'll buy iron ore not from you but from Indonesia. So that arm twisting tactics you have because you are a big player. Okay, but going back to, can I start now if everybody agrees?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So a few things which I shared with you this morning and which should worry you more now with the Houthis getting involved. And this is something which I thought I'll just quickly run through with two videos I also gave you. One is DW is a good news to watch. DW News, it's a German channel.
Right.
Yeah. And the other one is, if you want really going into details with shipping, it's called What's Going On in Shipping. It's very, very detailed news. So let me just show you this chart, sir. Yemen's Houthis to impose maritime blockade on Saudi. So far what was happening, and let me show you this chart. What was happening was, this was the pipeline. This is the Red Sea, what you're seeing on the chart, map now. And they had a pipeline of about, if I'm not wrong, 1,000 kilometers long, running across Saudi. And so what was happening, because the ships are not going into the Strait of Hormuz, the ships were coming into Yanbu airport here, and they were exporting. So it says Saudi exported more than 4 million barrels a day from Yanbu in June. Their total capacity is about 8 million barrels. So they were doing about 50-60% and increasing. Now, because of the attack by the Saudis attacked Yemen, and they attacked their airport there, and the retaliation was that the Houthis have started attacking Saudi refineries. So there is a very big refinery in Saudi called Aramco. Very, very big. American interest is there. And now a lot of ships are not calling Saudi. So what was the strategy? You fill up the oil here and then via Red Sea you come back, because that route was open. And Red Sea, mind you, is much smaller. The Strait of Bab el-Mandab is much smaller passage than the Strait of Hormuz. and 9 to 10% of the global trade is passed. So they are saying that any oil loaded in Saudi Arabia, we will not allow to pass. Now, what is your option? And the option here is that you head north, you cross the Suez Canal, and smaller ships are, because Suez Canal has limited capacity. You can take a ship of up to 100,000. Then on the Eastern Mediterranean here somewhere, you will have to transfer this oil somewhere here in this area, wherever, to a bigger ship. And that bigger ship will then carry it to Europe or wherever. So your logistics will really become much longer and cumbersome. See, you take one flight directly from here to New York, you sit in the plane, you know you will reach all going well. But when you're changing flights, the risk is there, the baggage gets lost, you may not find your boarding gate or whatever. It's the same thing here, sir. When you keep transferring oil, the risk is quantity issues, quality issues, a lot of these issues come. And the logistic goes up. And this is something where you will now find your oil, and I keep saying that whatever I read in every class, that your oil price. Sir, I just went off because the power went off. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now yes,
power
sir.
went off first. Yeah, sorry. Because earlier every country could put in their strategic reserves, so we had about 400 million barrels in the market. And Chinese stopped about 5 million barrels a day export. So, wo sab karke the oil prices remained. Now, if you see, the oil prices have already reached about $100. And suddenly, if you see, Trump has been told, take it easy with Iran because there is no choice for him. And I will come back to another topic. Don't forget Ukraine attacking a lot of Russian crude coming out of Ukraine, of Russia. A lot of crude oil coming out of Russia is now being attacked by Ukrainian drones. And there, who is the country which is suffering the most? It is not Russia, it is not others, it is Kazakhstan. Exit through the Russian oil ports, which they are exporting. So this is an interesting scenario, and that's why I asked you to go through these slides. So this is what the Houthis intend to do. They said they want to put a blockade, and they will have millions of barrels of Saudi oil will be impacted there. And this was the map I wanted to show you. Now, this is where Saudi's oil production. The yellow was from the Gulf and the black is from Yanbu. So you can see how systematically the exports from Yanbu have gone up, but the exports from Gulf is almost zero. And one thing you must also think about, we are mercenaries. We will fly you everywhere you want. We can carry your oil, but you pay more freight. Suddenly you'll find the market needs more tankers. Suddenly you'll find delay in the shipment, and that will escalate. In my operational, I used to pass through this area, and it is the 90 transit a day, they have come down to 20 and less. Can you see my screen, Dan? Yeah. So here is something which, and these are reliable data from IMF, and Oxford University also has a website on Port Watch. So you can just have a look there. Right. So this was about Saudi, and which I have shown you. Now, another industry which some of you may be involved is the fashion industry getting impacted, because a lot of chemicals, petrochemicals coming from, it says most wardrobe items made of oil in the form of polyester, nylon, etc. And petroleum shock can impact the apparel trade. Petrochemical companies that supply fashion trade such as Donkun may see increased demand of prices for their products. Fashion brands may be affected by conflicts in Strait of Hormuz, with those which have recycled fibers such as Zara, etc. are better placed to counter these disruptions. So this is where you can see how the fashion industry is going to impact. All the red one is the fabric which is oil driven, oil derived. H&M and other derivatives, almost all their polyesters are recycled with fibers. So this will be a challenge again. So one thing the takeaway for if I was there looking at all this is that how trade is so connected. It's not just oil, which ordinary man on the street may say it's just the oil coming off Middle East. It's a dominoes effect. And the interconnected world we live in, this is the impact we all will feel. You may be in a comfort zone where 3 rupees extra you are paying, but going forward it may go up to 6, 7, I don't know, because it's all uncertain. How long this will carry on, I don't know. Rare earths we'll talk later. I was updating this morning. Middle East become too problem and start treating me as good road. The cost of moving is raised. Now remember, how much it is? Your insurance is 3% of the value of the ship. 3%. And when I come to the insurance topic, I think that the ships are turning away from southern and Red Sea after Yemen, Iran.
Sorry, sir. One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is voice is breaking only for me or everyone have the same problem?
I think sir's signal is little weak.
Okay.
Let me check my signal because I think we had a power issue there. Can you read me now?
Yes, sir. The screen is visible, sir. Audio is also fine.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Imtiaz, please go ahead.
No, sir. Only this was the question because of my voice was breaking. Now it's okay.
Okay. I think some power, something they're doing. I don't know. Yeah. So this is something which is physical issue. You have somebody who has blocked one end of the road. The other end, if you want to go, you can't go by car. You have to take a cycle. So imagine you have a bus stuck in the middle of a street, and now you can't cross that street because that street is narrow. So each one of you are given a cycle to bike, and the other side there is another bus waiting for you. So look at the delay which will happen. So you can see here, this is where the Suez Canal is. So what I was trying to say that the ships which are loading here, they may load, but then they will not come south, they will head north. Then they'll cross the Suez Canal, and Suez Canal may take up to 100,000 tons cargo. Then on the other side, they may have another ship waiting for them. So this becomes a very cumbersome. And remember, how does this ship come back? I don't know. Because probably this ship, the Houthis may not allow movement. You are going for Iran, Saudi crude. So it becomes a big challenge here. Because we have only X number of ships. So it has become a game. I don't see any end, here. So that's why I wanted to just bring up these few things here. If we knew that all this was happening, we would be all very rich, You see the oil price from 70 went up to 110, went down again and now up. I don't know what as an economist you call it, yo-yo effect, or is it that? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology. But this is what I got from the DW News, that how the oil prices. I mean, it's 30-40%, $40 more than your budgeted price. And we enjoyed a lot, actually. If you see, India was very lucky that in the Ukraine war, you were buying oil at $45-50. But actually, over the years, Russian crude has gone up because you were shipping it on CIF basis. So they were pricing in the other factors, but you would still feel it's cheaper. But it was about $10 a cheap, little cheaper than the rest of the world. So this was the escalation in the oil price. Now this is again, it will tell you a story. You see, it will also affect. These are the some pipelines. This is a pipe. This is Jordan, very narrow Tehran Straits we call it. Very, very narrow strait. This is the straits. You see, in my working life, I used to go here to load fertilizer for India. Very narrow. Now, one funny part here is Jordan and Israel are opposite each other, and the waters are very deep, so you cannot anchor. So when you can't anchor, we call it drifting. Drifting is you are hanging around. You can't do anything. So the water takes you on one side, and the Israelis are watching you. So moment you come into their territorial water, their gunboat comes. Then you maneuver your ship and go back into Jordanian waters. So this game continues there. But what Israel is going to get impacted is that they are getting their oil through this pipeline, and that can have an impact to their supply. So these are the logistic challenges we are facing. UAE is okay now, but the second takeaway you should have is maybe if we meet in 10 years of time, you will find that the oil may have shifted a little bit to pipeline logistics. Certainly, it's more so for countries in the Persian Gulf because that's their only survival. Countries like Iraq or others, they will have to find a way. But in pipeline, the life is more complicated. Why? Because you have to have a bilateral agreement with another country over which that pipeline is passing. And if at some stage that country feels or has a diplomatic row with you, then the whole thing is jeopardized. So these are new challenges which we face. One other report I was reading is that countries like UAE, they instead of Dubai, they may start developing other ports outside the Gulf. But remember, developing a port can take 10, 12 years. It's not one-day job. So for that transition period, challenge will continue. Yeah. So I'll just quickly show you some of it. So it's about 1,000-kilometer pipeline, which I mentioned. So these are some of the shipments from Yanbu, gone up to 5 to 6 million. You see, you can push that much. But pipeline का तो diameter उतना ही है ना, उतना ही oil जा सकता है. There are limitations. So you can maybe have more efficient logistics. Okay, but see what happens in as far as logistics goes. It's like you take your car to the petrol pump. The pump runs the oil into your car. Simple as that. So imagine that pump is a refinery and that car is a ship. Then the oil is pouring into the ship from that pumping station. So we only receive oil through gravity. You see, we just open our valves, whichever tanks we have to do it, that's all. But from the other side, it's a pump which is run. Now reverse is that oil has come to India. Or before that, if I say that, can you pump back that oil from your car? No, you cannot, because you don't have that facility. For us, we have a facility to pump back. So on the discharging end, I will pump into the refinery. In loading time, it comes gravity. By, just open the pipes and through pressure from the pump from the shore terminal, it comes. So you can see here about up to 6 million. 6 million barrels a day is more than your daily consumption for India. So it's a lot of oil still. It's our daily consumption is about 4 to 5 million.
So anchor is allowed till what depth? See, as you mentioned that Jordan and Israel are the opposite, so deep is so
allowed, or we call it good seamanship practice, up to 50 meters.
Up to 50 meters.
50. So up to that depth it is allowed, and beyond that, then it's because then we have some technical issues, so we can't. See, so like if you go to a port in UAE called Fujairah, we cannot anchor there because depths are more than 100 meters. So this is just a ship transiting the Suez Canal. So you can see when a loaded tanker, it's almost, so when the pirates used to board my ships, a very less area to cover from the water level, but a tanker which is not loaded is much higher. And so you see these type of boats in and around the ship, sometimes patrolling. This is a Yemenis boat where an LPG tanker passing by, And so LPG is your petroleum gas which you use for your cooking. So these are the ships which have been attacked. 2 tankers in the Red Sea have been attacked, and some are attacked in the. Remember, nobody's talking today, and you're all 100% younger than me and very, very young. So what I will is nobody's talking, and as young people think about the pollution it is causing. This oil definitely is leaking somewhere. So lately I heard of a ship near Oman which is leaking tanker, and you're taking millions of dollars. Guys, give me 5 minutes. I have somebody at the gate. Give me 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Right, everybody, we can continue. So what I was saying is nobody's talking about the kind of pollution happening, So oil always floats, so it might drift onto your coast or anywhere else. Unless you skim that oil, then how do you manage? So it's a huge problem in the area. This I already showed you. This is a mixed picture, again from Bloomberg. A satellite imagery showing Saudi Arabia and Iraq oil port activity. So you can see the start of war, and now interim peace deal, it's quite low. So all this. So will we get affected? Yes, because a lot of our employment, if you see happening in that area, whether it's hotels or banks or investments, so when they will all be cautious, and maybe some of you may have experienced already. Amrita, what about you? Do you feel it is impacting business? Amritji?
Well,
yeah.
I don't see any direct impact, but obviously, indirect impact would be there.
Yeah.
Indirect impact would be there.
Yeah, I think the employment of, a lot of our people working in that Gulf country going forward can get impacted because they will be worried about their resources, so they'll not employ so many people.
It's quite like uncertain times. Where it's very difficult. To take any decision for even for near term.
Yeah. So from a risk management point of view, it's a challenge. You don't know what to do there. So if I don't. Every year, World Economic Forum publishes a report called Global Risks. They'll have to republish it. But the top two were geopolitical risk and digital disruptions. And today, I think both of them are at a peak. We don't hear too much on digital disruptions, but you can see what is happening around us. I was talking to a senior person today, and he says he lost 34 lakhs. Somebody just got an OTP and all that. So that is a kind of challenge we are facing. Another area which nobody is talking about, the drones attacks happening to the Russian oil supply. And the refineries are attacked. That's why Russia today is short of diesel oil. Now, the moment you are short of diesel oil, you can't move your
this has even affected sunflower oil prices.
Yeah, sure. Because of Ukraine war, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because they used to produce a lot of sunflower. Now, if you
sir.
If you see their logistics, now because they can't pass the shipments through the normal route, they are the ships which are going there are smaller, so they are hugging the European coast, and then they are shipping them via river ports into Bulgaria and other places. So yes, that is a challenge. So some of the things which they are expecting in Europe, you can see future trading of $170 a barrel with jet fuel into $180. So if you are traveling, then your air tickets probably will go up. These are the areas where they have been attacking. Ukraine intensifies refinery attacks. So this is what is happening today. But my question was,
charging.
How this is impacting oil prices, logistics, freight market. Partly I've already told you, but if you have any points to make before we move on to our topic. Oil prices, I think, totally out of control. $100 a barrel. Nobody could have thought about it. And then when you listen to the various podcasts, they say the inventory levels of oil are at the lowest. Because it will still take time to get the Venezuelan oil in the market, because there are some technical issues. Then other countries have already put some of the oil in the market, and the production is not happening because the exports are not happening. So that is my concern. Now, things I think becoming more complicated. Every few days I have to upgrade my slides because the scenarios keep changing, and in our work and maybe in your work, you also have some work models, how you simulate your scenarios. So we have something called a contingency plan, and we look into, okay, if this happens, what we do. But I think something which is totally, imagine a ship from Saudi cannot come south. He has to go north, cross the Suez Canal, discharge this oil, and then come back to Yanbu again. And that will continue. But don't Houthis have the capability of attacking that port, Yanbu. So that is now declared as a war zone area. War zone area means insurance goes up. And insurance is not like people, they don't mind as long as the risk is covered, you are paying it, they are okay with that. They work on the law of probability. Freight market will go up definitely because number of ships are constrained. There is a company, if you Google, called Dynacom. It's a Greek company. They have been mercenaries. They have been making a lot of money because some of their ships have been hit in the area. But in general, because there is shortage of ships, the risk is high, the freight will be more. And that applies to insurance as well. So every ship in this whole region, you can take it now. It's become a regional issue. It's a war zone area. And then don't forget, when you are talking or looking at these risks, you also have the pirates, Somalian pirates saying, what about us? So that's another challenge which we have to consider. Right? So this is something which I wanted to just quickly update. I feel it's important that we know what is happening in the situation. So any comments before I go to my main topic? So I think I started that Port of Singapore. I want to finish and then go to contracts. So part of this discussion we had last time. Now if you look at the slide and if this is a port, is this type of port you are asked to develop, what would be the key factors you will consider? Anybody can comment?
Sir, geographical positioning.
That is very, very important. What else?
Turnover.
Yeah, turnover. Yeah, so the productivity, efficiency of the port.
Depth.
Volume of global traffic through the Malacca.
Yeah. So that geographical position will help you. And the depth and also the technology, the equipment we are using. Remember these blue structures, what you see, we call them gantry cranes. And each
So
of
what is the
these
spelling? Gantry is?
gantry, G-A-N-T-R. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah. So you can see the port equipment, and 70% of them are now being supplied from China. So when we load, that's a different logistics. How do you carry them? We carry them in standing position like this. So it's a big logistic exercise. And the other is the IT system. Look at the number of containers. You can't go there because imagine your baggage from instead of Mumbai reaches Milan. You will never travel in that airline again. And then the is
The connection problem.
Only problem in voice.
Yeah, just bolo.
The connection problem at your end.
Connection again, your voice is.
Okay, let me change my. Just give me one. Yeah, can you read me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Better. Right. So I was saying the last that the umbrella is the regulatory framework that as a country, the number of international conventions you have signed, and the term we use is ratification. Ratification is when your international law is included in your domestic legislation, and then is the security. So all that will add up to the port. So that is where Singapore becomes essential. So this is
But
what
we need to also look at some environmental aspects also because it's a big.
तो वो सर उसमें आ जाता है because once you are party to an international law on say pollution prevention, then you will comply. Like if you go to Port of California or Port of Los Angeles, California is one of the the country with state with cleanest air because they don't even allow ship generators to work. They plug you in with the nuclear power, which they have so much. So the ships are not allowed to generate any emissions. And so that way these countries have been very, very strict because the fines are so heavy that no ship owner dares to make any sort of, shortcut. Because you can't just say, okay, I have done this or that. I think I gave you some examples earlier. Look at that ship, that story of the British Petroleum Company, where the cleanup cost is $15 billion. I think $15 billion may be a budget of many countries. So each seagull they are charging you $10,000. So emission, you would say, what are the emission? It is also the noise emission. It is emission through air, emission through water. And there is something, if you Google, saying ballast water management. That means if I am carrying water from India, so there are living species which survive without sunlight. So I will then go to Australia and I'm carrying this seawater for stability reasons. So when I'm going to Australia, I will load cargo and pump out this water. We are not allowed to do that. We have to filter this water. Now, it looks very stupid for me to say that we are filtering water, but that's law. So we pass through infrared rays, some special technical arrangement, so that there is no foreign species come into your water and that destroys your ecological life. So see a video called Invaders of the Sea. BBC का एक documentary है. So this is where they took advantage of it and they were efficient. Yeah, Raman?
So I want to ask some question regarding the picture, the previous one. So the containers which are placed on the ground, so once the gantry can unload the container from the vessel, so they directly put on the ground or they put on the truck to send to the nearest ICD or warehouse?
Yeah. They are then sent to the warehousing. Very rarely you'll just keep them on the trucks. I mean, on the
ground. On the ground. Okay.
These are the containers which are lined up to be loaded on your ship.
Okay.
And you will see these containers are layered in a sequence. It's not just they are kept according to the port which you are going. Accordingly, the sequence is followed. So the thumb rule is first in, last out.
And sir, where these vessels are placed, so this is called the berthing?
This is called, we call it berth, you can call it terminal, wharf, various names. Wharf is WHARF, wharf. But nowadays you call it like a container terminal. So you see, terminal is nothing but a long stretch of concrete platform they have created. And depending on your size of the ship, maybe 4, 5, 6 ships can come at one time. Depending on the capacity you can handle, So this is where operation management comes in, that how many trucks you need, how many cranes you need, how much is the warehouse capacity. So all that then put together.
So sir, we just hear from the many agent or forwarder, suppose my vessel has reached to the Nhava Sheva. So what they generally convey to me that the vessel is not getting the berthing. So it will take time. So what exactly mean that? Berthing means contain.
Berthing is the port is congested. That means now if suppose you're going to Nhava Sheva and there are 3 slots, only 3 ships can come in, and there are 10 ships waiting, then your turn will only come when these ships move out. It's like what happens when you land in an airport and they say, the terminal or where you have to dock the plane, that's occupied. So you are waiting. So something like that. And this happens a lot in some of the developing countries. It should not happen with container ship because these are priority ships. Keeping a container ship waiting is losing a lot of money. So this is where your efficiency or inefficiency is displayed. So in a good container ship will not be waiting even for an hour or so. It's like passenger ship, You cannot have a passenger with 2,000, 3,000 passengers on board waiting to dock. No. It's a very time-bound trade. And Raman, when in my working days, I got a lot of gray hair because the stress is there that half an hour se zyada delay nahi hona chahiye, 15 minutes se. Because what happens is you delay in one port, that delay carries on. It's like you're connecting flights, you have missed some, and that cycle will then continue. It's very, very difficult to get out of it. So that is how the whole thing that works. So ports like Singapore, what is they're thriving on? Now, even when we talk of general infrastructure, we talk about beautiful university campuses, very nice lawns and all. Easy part, very easy part. The difficult part is how to run it efficiently, how to have the soft skill. And Singapore that way has that soft skill. If they don't have, they will take people from India or other places and, groom them to that level, So it's a very, very well established system. That's why one of the good ports I can tell you is there. And right opposite or very close to it is a port in Malaysia called Tanjung Pelabas. Not doing so well because that soft culture or, people work for Tata, they work and they retire from Tata. It used to be. But now, I believe the Gen Z generation doesn't believe in more than 3-4 years, which is fine. But that culture you gain from it or in army or wherever you go. So that is where Singapore thrives, So the same people you will see, I'm not criticizing anybody would say why wear seatbelt, but the same people will comply with every regulation when they are in that port. So because if you don't, then we call it the fine city. So they will fine you. So this was this thing, and there is a sheltered and deep water port. Sheltered matlab ki na, what happens? Shanghai is not a sheltered port. Shanghai is closed about 40-50 days in a year. There are a lot of cyclones which hits Shanghai. Like Paradeep, if some of you are from Odisha, Paradeep is a port where it is in the eye of the storm. But Singapore, you'll never hear a storm hitting Singapore. And it's deep water. Both important है ये, because your whole cost, your economics comes down. Because if you, that means bigger ships can go. We will not, smaller ships can bring cargo to this ship. You know. So this was where the PSA, now I mentioned to you last time that they are managing not only ports in Singapore or Port of Singapore, but ports even in India, ports like Tuticorin and other ports they are managing, and because they have that know-how, how to run ports. You know. So that is about it. 90s when China opened up, their business zoomed. Because the interconnected world we live in, partly the goods are made somewhere, then they go somewhere else. Like if you see rare earths, nowadays we talk about lithium, you talk about zinc-ron, all this. It's not made in one. It may be available in Australia. Then for refining, it goes to Malaysia. And then for recycling, it goes to France. And then technology, if you need, it comes from America, and funding. So you can imagine it's just one item I'm saying, that how the whole complex system they are managing it. So we call it the hub port. Hub is where all of you meet and from where the cargo is dispatched. So that is what the spoke and hub model there is. So this is where the CEO of the port said, we have acquired a portfolio of assets around the world. The challenge of PS is to build the people, process, and enhance. So 3 Ps, people, processes, and productivity. And in my operational life, I used to write a lot of processes, and some of you may be also involved. There's a very good book you should read called Checklist Manifesto. A guy called Atul Gawande has written it. And he talks about how a checklist is used in a hospital, when the surgery is going on, how important it is to go through that checklist. But somewhere in my industry, we have had a overkill. We have too many checklists. I don't know in your industry, but in my industry, we have a overkill. With every accident, we are increasing our process. So the systems are clogged. At the moment, when I'm going for lectures to my own professionals, they are fed up with life because they said, we have a checklist fatigue. Too many checklists. And Atul Gawande is also on YouTube. I'll put his book, and if you need it, I have a soft copy. I'll mail you. And it's called Checklist Manifesto. It's worth looking at it in the sense that we should not blindly make procedures because that will clog your system. That's why these countries who are doing it, they're looking into the feasibility. He says a checklist should not take more than 60 to 90 seconds to fill up. And 60 to 90 seconds means you should have killer items. So when you leave home in the morning, your killer item is your phone, your car keys, your home keys, laptop, maybe petrol in your car, and saying very nicely bye-bye to your partners. That's the key killer items. So 3 things are their success story. I think we discussed this also earlier. Porter's model, where he feels that every port is there available, but why Singapore? Because from the way they are having a more bargaining power or more advantage as compared to other ports. I mentioned to you about the cluster policy. I told you that how defense minister was so much involved in the whole. We do a lot of tabletop exercises with the Navy, whether it's around the world we do it. Say how a piracy attack is happening or a oil spill is happening. And Singapore, you see, it's like they know they only have one port, and if that shuts down, what will they do? So they are very active there, very, very active. And all the bright minds I have worked with, very serious. It's not they're just passing time there. And on weekdays, I've been teaching in the full-time MBA school at IFT, and I tell the young people, because the class starts at 9, they arrive sometime 9:20, 9:30. So I said, you have already missed the bus. If you do this with a Japanese client, he's not going to give you business. And you all know how serious these clients are. So one thing in Singapore is, well, if you ask me, sometimes I used to feel very boring there because we live in such a chaotic environment at times, but there everything works so well. Their success story is that there's no chaotic. Your taxi will be there. Sometimes from the terminals, I would come back 2 o'clock at night, doing audits or inspection. Taxis are available. A food court is open. You can eat food. And any young lady walking on the street cannot be more safe than Singapore. It gives a lot of happiness to the parents sitting across the oceans that my child is safe. So that, and still now we are in a big demand, and I tell young people when I come to the business schools that one of our biggest assets why we are employable is also our proficiency in English. Because many countries I work where, let's say Indonesia, resource rich, sab kuch hai, lekin if I sit in that class, I cannot talk to them like I'm talking to you. Even if I know your camera is off, but I know somewhere there is a dialogue happening. In Indonesia, it's impossible. Thailand is worse. I worked there 3 years. It's very, very difficult sometimes. One of the thumb rule I use there is don't make long statement. So my wife was with me. We were living in Thailand for a few years. And she thought proper English is the thing here. So she would say, can I have a very hot cup of coffee? She spoke so nicely for such a long sentence that the coffee never arrived. So as a seafarer, we have an operational language. I said to the person at the counter, I said, coffee lon lon. Coffee lon lon means hot coffee. And that's all you need in these places. Don't go for very special English, But yes, Singapore English, sometimes people have difficulty because they call it Singlish, So, okay la, no la. In my weekdays, I have classes with Singapore every day morning, 6:30. If I said, can we have it at 7? 7 my time is 9:30 Singapore. वो उनका हाथ पांव फूल जाता है, what we call. They say, oh, captain, cannot, the client will not be happy. Students are waiting. But when I come to IFT, I can tell you that sometimes I go disillusioned because I've been teaching there 15 years and sometimes people don't turn up till 9:30. So there's no value for your time, no? And all these Southeast Asian countries, I can tell you, sir, they are before me in the classroom when I am in the face-to-face class. They respect your time. Whether it's Japan, Indonesia, China, Indonesia, somehow that's the culture. Philippines, very prompt. They are there before you. But koi faltu nahi. So I think something which the soft skill part, technical part, we all know. So this is a cluster policy where every ministry, it's not in silos, somebody is saying something and somebody is doing something, No. And if you ever get a chance or maybe you have worked there, they have a national service of 2 years. I think it's a good thing. I think these rankings I've done with you earlier, so we leave this one. And the connectivity. Now this is an old figure, but almost the same status you can see here. The figures have increased now, but the top 8 ports are occupied by China because of their volume. And Singapore is competing with Shanghai. Singapore competes with Shanghai. This has also increased now to 154 million. So I always tell my participants that the ocean which surrounds you is a very important ocean strategically, because I think in our earlier discussion I mentioned about 50 to 60 million containers are moving on that road. Now I want you to broaden up your in your mind the map. You have Bab el Mandab, you have Strait of Hormuz, you have Malacca Strait, and going beyond you have Taiwan. If things are disrupted here, especially Singapore Strait, you get 28%, 24 to 28% of your oil trade is happening. That's a lot of trade. That is about $5 to $7 trillion choked up in a place. So strategic security becomes important. These are the ports, which is the old, maybe a little old, but you can see in India they are managing so many ports. So they compete with Dubai World, they compete with Hutchison's. So they are competing now. In India, they are in Tuticorin, Chennai, Navi Mumbai, Kolkata, Kakinada. Then in Europe, they are in Antwerp, Zeebrugge, Genova, Venice, Saints, and Mersin in Turkey. So global presence, because they know it's a small country, one port country, how to do it. So let's look at the success factor. Maybe before I go in for the success factors, I can ask some of you to tell me one guess. Anybody? Kalpana? Any success factor you think Singapore is, which contributes to running such a successful port?
They are highly professional.
It's so
I'm
trained
just
workforce.
talking about the attribute. I would not know, sir, frankly.
No, but what you said is absolutely right. And I think that's so important. You can have the best infrastructure. In some of the countries where I visit, they have put the best infrastructure, but काम करने का दिल ही नहीं है उनका, So you cannot, they say, no, you take the horse to the pond, but you cannot make him drink. So that's the story sometimes. Amrit sir?
I think once again, I think user-friendly policies or less of red tapeism, what we call in India. So those are the key factors, to make a project successful, basically. Because like you have said, infrastructure to hum khada kar dete hain, that's not an issue. Like countries, they are financially rich countries nowadays. Even India doesn't lack resources. But then you have that operations which basically makes a big difference. How you're handling the operations, how you're handling the clients, basically service kya de rahe hain.
Yeah. And actually, I have a lot of colleagues still working there. They have got their citizenship now. And it's still they call it a corporation. It runs like an MNC, and whether you are at custom 2:00 night, there is somebody there. And if you look at your airport, sir, they have every aircraft which you are boarding, they have a separate security team. It's not a common thing. So you enter the terminal, they'll see your boarding pass, you have checked in, you enter. Then before boarding, you see every gate has its own security. So they're fully doing it, and they do it efficiently. So same with the ports. I think I showed you that video, how they clear the containers in 25 seconds. So that is important. Anybody else to add to these points?
Their digital infrastructure and all, maybe technology wise.
Bilkul. Sahi keh rahe ho. Very good.
Sir, another is timing, because I'm not sure. When I was in Singapore, I found something like this. Singapore time and China time is the same. And most of the people saying that because China trading so high, so they are maintaining the same time basically for the logistic or trade related things.
Timing to sir, longitude pe hota hai. Every 15 degrees is 1 hour. So if 0 degree hai, और अगर आप right में जा रहे हो तो every 15 degrees 1 hour is added, and every 15 degrees of longitude 1 hour is subtracted. that is nothing to do with. But yes, like if you look at EU, they have a Central European time, so that means every country is maintaining that. So, but then there are countries like Australia or US or Russia. There are so many time zones, So timing can be, but not so important. But it's some. Remember, when we are closing in Singapore, US is opening, so it was a pain for us. Then the client is opening up and you are closing in Singapore. That's why
Yes.
With your generation, sometimes you have to work like 18, 20 hours a day because you have to answer to those clients. Anybody else wants to add to the success factors?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Education and skill, social harmony and stability, and international collaboration.
Yeah, so they work with the industry and lot of and sir, Kanan sir,
Yes, sir.
I have done a lot of projects there where government funds part of. Say you are doing this course, there is something called what they call a benefit scheme and grant. They call it grant, PF Singapore grant. So the grant is given to the part. If you are a Singaporean, you get a grant to upskill yourself. Whichever course. So that's a continuous process they follow. Yes. Anything else?
Sir, they are open to business and they have many free market policies as part of their trade liberalization policy. And like you have mentioned, I have also seen in many documentaries that they are very sincere and punctual, which adds value to their system.
Yeah, absolutely. And
one of the free trade agreements also. Sir, one more. I was just reading it online. It seems like that 85% of its volume is transshipment
transit. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So transit mein kya hota hai, sir? We are only charging you handling cost. But because we trust you, you trust us, we say, okay, we'll use Singapore port because we know it's reliable, whether it's airline SQ, if you fly SQ, you pay through your nose. But you are treated very well on board, once you're there. So a few things which you have said is absolute. Now, another thing which I didn't mention here, it's like, I don't know if some of you have visited IFT, on that road, there are strings of dhabas. Nighttime, it looks like you are somewhere in a very, very busy street. The ancillary industry which has come up. So cargo, though I'm loading, discharging. But they also have become a refueling center. So the fuel what we buy there is much cheaper than Singapore. The food I used to buy, you see, when you order food for the crew, it is like 1,000 kilos rice, 400 kilo chicken, and campus impression.
No, sorry, sir. I was just since you brought that topic.
Yeah. So what happens is they have a lot of indirect industry which has come in. Refueling hai, food supply hai, repairs hai, banking hai, insurance hai. So this has grown. You can see all the nice fancy banks are available there. So that also adds to the end of the day. It's for them. They have to do dhanda. They have to do their business. So that doesn't matter. Caste, creed, doesn't matter. They just do the work. They don't get involved in other things. So these are few things which have a strategic location, high level of operational efficiency, and high port connectivity, which have adequate infrastructure. And the present port, if you go to Singapore, it's all dysfunctional now. They have got a new port in the northern part of Singapore, and it is, I think, 90% autonomous. That means there are no truck drivers at all. Why? Because if you look at population-wise, they are on a geographical, disadvantage. Their population is not increasing; it's actually decreasing, like Japan. So what they call the dinks, double income, no kids. So a lot of them are in that sphere, but that's their personal choice. So that is why a lot of things are automation there. I know my colleagues who live there and work. A local Singaporean sometimes doesn't have a kitchen in the home because food is so cheap outside. So why cook? Adequate infrastructure and wide range of port services. Port services I mentioned to you, refueling. So when I'm going for cargo, I would refuel. I even would refuel even if I don't have cargo. So I'm passing by Singapore. It's and via Singapore coming to India, I'll refuel in Singapore. Because and what they did, I will give you a small example. We used to buy a fuel in Singapore and they were cheating us, the suppliers. So the complaint went to the government and they monitored it, and they charged all those people who played hell into. What they would do is they would say, okay, if I'm giving you 1,000 tons of diesel oil, they'll say, let's split. Only I give you 700 tons, rest we'll pay 50-50. Or they would give poor quality of oil. See, that was impacting brand of Singapore. So they have made laws that nobody dares to do something like that. And then the last is the intermodal transport. They have a very good connectivity with Malaysia. And just for your knowledge, if any youngsters wants to work in Singapore, the housing is very expensive. And if you're on what we call EP is employment pass, then you are paying much more because the cost of the rent is very high. So a lot of my colleagues, I know, if you have young children, you get a school visa. Very good system. You get school visa. As long as your kids are in school, you can live in Malaysia. And you can work in Singapore because in Singapore you already have a work permit. So there's a place called Johor Bahru. Johor Bahru is just land connection with Singapore. So people can come daily to Singapore. And the housing is very cheap in Malaysia. So they do that. So people have found their different ways to work there. And because if you go to a place called Boat Quay in the evening for a drink or a food or something, I think every nationality of the world you'll find. There will be Irish pub to Chinese restaurant, whatever you want to have, and so soft infrastructure, manpower, which I mentioned to you, deployment, both will assist in reducing turnaround time. 24 hours port functions, well-trained staff, state-of-art technology, knowledge workers. So that's why many of us work there, because they only have 5 million people. So effective human resource management, employees are encouraged to innovate. Information IT system, if you look at global competitive index, they are in the top 5, so they have a good IT system. So you can't afford your container missing. And then is your wide range of port services I mentioned already, refueling, repair, storage, other things, and insurance, finance, warehousing. क्या होता है? बड़ी companies है जैसे Maersk and all. So they keep their warehouses in Singapore or in Malaysia. Malaysia is cheaper than Singapore. And so if a ship is passing by and he needs spare part, he doesn't have to wait that spare part is coming from Europe. It's already in the warehouse in Malaysia, and then it can be used. So those, and the advantage for you if you are in Singapore is that it takes 2.5 hours flight from Chennai to Delhi. I think it takes 5 hours or 4.5 hours flight to Singapore. So a lot of companies have opened their offices in Chennai because Singapore is expensive to run. So they keep their essential staff there and rest they have in India. Government role, I will really say they are very, very, they are serious. I'll give you an example that under labor law, you can employ a maid for your house. But that maid should have a proper room to sleep. And sometimes the inspectors come in the night knocking to check whether it's not the drawing room where you put a mattress for her or him. No. So, very, very, government has a very proactive role. And with my work in the United Nations, I meet a lot of them, and they will sit through the session. Ye nahi ke after 5 o'clock you are missing or something. If it's an important, like 4 or 5 weeks ago when I was there, we were discussing something called an autonomous code. You know what should be the standard for a automatic ship, that means without humans. I don't think so when it will come, but yes, it is there. Then they are there till midnight also. If you have to work, those guys have come as a delegation, they work for. So government takes a very, very important role because they know these are their points for survival. And in finance market, Temasek Trading is a big financial services provider. So role of government is important there. Port is run commercially. You may be PSA, you may be like JNPT, we say, no? But it's no iron bowl that ki theek hai, roj bapu khana khilayega. If you don't perform, then somebody else can bid for that port and can work. So very, very clear in their mind. Port is expected to compete with other ports. Ports of Singapore has been responsible for designing, implementing appropriate strategies to meet its objectives. Deregulation, so refueling is cheaper. It's also a big ship registry, that means flag of convenience. So you can say a lot of people have their fancy private banking here. Promotes banking, active participation in UN, involved in the various policy making. And as I mentioned, they have ports overseas also. Like Dubai ports, they're same model. Dubai port is also managing ports world over. Plus, I was doing another case study. They have ports in Rwanda, which is a landlocked country. Most important is customer satisfaction. So there was a case in Singapore where when a new port opened in Malaysia, about 1.5 million EU containers went to Malaysia. But within a year, they returned because Malaysia couldn't give that service. Like you were saying, the freight forwarder doesn't tell you what happened with the cargo. Very, very clear here. But cargo handling cost is high because efficiency brings in the cost. Nothing is cheap, SQ gives you very good service when you're flying with them, Singapore Airlines. But the air ticket is 40-50% more than Indigo or Thai or others. This is some extract from the PM's interview at 2012 World Economic Forum. So one of the things which I have copied is this. I'll take a pause here, just read it through and then we will move on. I'll be back in a minute. This was a question Fareed Zakaria was interviewing him. Prime Minister Lee, he is retired now actually. So they have a new Prime Minister. And he said, what is your national industrial policy? And he says, creating preconditions to wide range of industries to take root and develop and prosper. So invest in education. So very good education system. And if you have two young kids and you move in Singapore, a private school will cost you up to $1,500 per kid. But government schools are equally good. So that means ordinary person has an opportunity to perform. Because government schools are equally good because we don't, as an expat, you may not send your kid to a local school because they also have to learn Chinese. So they feel, I have to learn the language, but they're equally good. So that means even with less money, you can do better. So infrastructure, invest in building in financial system which support manufacturing activities. Need to have hardworking, well-trained and disciplined unions who understand what is about and will work with employers, and that is work of several administrations. So that was something which appealed to me, and I used this in my discussion, that it is the whole ecosystem. By just saying build port here and build port there is not going to work. We must have the whole ecosystem working. And the main thing is the cargo. One of the questions I asked this week to the young students at IFT is, looking at these big ships, what do you think is the strategy? Because many of them said, my major is in strategy. I said, what would be your strategy to order ships? Or if you are Maersk Line and ordering a 24,000 container ship, which will cost you $250 million, or ordering a liquid natural gas carrier, which will cost you $800 million, how do you decide which should I order or not? And the main thing is your customer base. How is IKEA doing? How is H&M doing? How is Primark doing? Because they are giving you the cargo, and that is how the whole business works. So this is where their long-term policies. Yeah. So challenges they had a low turnover in 2016. Their profits were down. They then worked on it. This profit, how to improve it, because there was oversupply. Now, एक चीज आप याद रखना मेरी. It is, every city now in India we have a mall, which is good. Then in the end, sometimes people say कि mall में लोग जा नहीं रहे, shopping नहीं जाते हैं, shopping नहीं हो रही. So having too many ports also it kills the industry. You see, if you have a port 1.5 days sailing away from Singapore, why would I use your port? I already have Singapore. And your thing may take much longer to come to that level. So that is something which was happening, and it happened. Shipping is it's a cyclic thing, oversupply, tonnage and freight. So the profits are falling. And it should increase more and more their capacity. So their projection is not 5-10 years. They look at 20-30 years whenever they make something much more. So they need to maintain that with their current challenges, the growth rate. So that's why they are diversifying to 66 terminals in 42 countries, including Antwerp. And I want you to look at this story. And this all data I've given you. 73, Singapore is nowhere on your horizon. New York is 1.6 million containers. Singapore is not there. Maybe the closest Asian port is Kobe, about 600,000 containers, and Hong Kong 400,000. Today, Hong Kong is no more a viable, because when Hong Kong got independence, they were treated for next 50 years as SAR region, Special Administrative Region, no? If you see the Hong Kong flag is little different from Chinese. But then I think when that crackdown happened, there is a worry for foreigners and others. And the people are living there, infrastructure is good. You have a Hong Kong passport, which you can travel free of visa in many countries. But the office or the housing cost has gone up. It is very, very tough to buy a house in Tokyo or Hong Kong. That's why when I was in Tokyo, people told me that young executives sometimes don't go home. They go to pubs and sit there and probably sleep there to save electricity. And they live in dormitories. Manager, you may be a manager of a company, but your family lives maybe in the village. So this was 73 scenario. And this was 75. This was 80. Now 80, you can again see Singapore is just come up, number 5 or 6 there, 900,000. Now you will see the leap from 80 to 85. Singapore is 1.6 million. From 85 to 90, Singapore is 5.2 million. This is where the China started churning out their production. And from 90 to 95, Singapore becomes 10 million. So jump of 100%. And top here, Asia starts to dominate. Hong Kong, Singapore, Kaohsiung, which is Taiwan, then Rotterdam, then Korea, Hamburg, and others. This is 2000. Singapore has reached 17 million. Hong Kong is 18 million. But Shanghai is still catching up. It's only 5 million. Here, Shanghai from 5 million in 5 years has gone to 18 million. Singapore has gone from 18 million to 23 million. So see the growth happening, like numbers are mind-boggling. 2010, 29. So this is, you'll see this competition, Shanghai and Singapore. And then this is 2015, 36 million. Singapore is 30 million. 2020, 43 million. Singapore 36. So these are the present. These are, of course, 5 years old, but presently it's about 50 million. So this is more realistic today. But if you look at Europe, the biggest port is handling only 15 million compared to 47 million or 50 million. Antwerp, 12 million. Here it's 37 million. And all the other ports are down. So, 3 things keeping in mind: portfolio, continue to grow, process, and people is going to make a difference. Yeah. Any questions?
So you were mentioning that you teach at Singapore University. May I know the name of the university, sir, and the program?
In the NUS, they have this port management, terminal management.
Okay.
They call it.
So how well people working on the ground on the terminal port are paid?
Quite well, actually. Ordinary person would make, if I ask you, unskilled labor, maybe 1,500 Sing dollars. So that's multiplied by 70 now. So that's the kind of money he's making. So that, yeah.
How about India? How they are paid?
This is what you will get if a ordinary worker goes there. Because वहाँ पे, Kalpana, the locals are not doing these jobs because of education. They are doing other jobs. They are more into office. So in office they get about 3,000 to 4,000 Singapore dollars. And when I started my work there, they were paying me 8,000 Singapore dollars. So that was middle manager, just starting 8,000 Singapore. Then there is a bonus system there. So 1 month bonus you get minimum, that is takes care of your taxes. And after that, it's up to company. Some get 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So that is how it works. But what is good, they don't have pensions there. So a lot of people you see driving cabs are people who have retired, but they cannot live, sustain life. It's expensive. So they then drive cabs and all. So that challenge is there.
So they do not have this social security
They have something called PF, Provident Fund. Okay. So that is there. But based on that, you can buy a house. So, housing वगैरह take care हो जाती है. But pension
sustaining life is
difficult afterward. So then I see sometime. But Indians have done very well there, banking and others. So we have done well because the salaries are very, very high. तो थोड़ा resentment भी है. कभी-कभी होता है कि that's why government is under pressure. They are not. When I was there in 2006-07, you could get a PR. PR is permanent residency in 1 year's time. Today it's not possible because there is a pressure from locals. Ki, what about us? You are bringing in foreigners. So that is every country is at the moment, that elbow space is reducing within the whole globe. There is less tolerance about these things. What about me? And foreigners are coming in here. So that's the story, Okay, guys, we will move on then.
So we can come back again, maybe.
Say again, Kalpana.
We can come back again. Our timing is what?
Okay, we have one more class with you now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So let's take a break.
Yeah.
What time is the other class?
So it's 4 p.m. We can take maybe 5 minutes. By 4, 5 we can
take 15 minutes break and say have coffee or pakodas. I think Amrit, you're ordering. Maybe.
Not really, then not today.
Not today. Okay, okay. Chalo. See you guys.
Sure.
I think I'll have
the new link, right? On the new link.
Yes, sir. There's another link.